This is far too much work for a coloring book, but it's a giant coloring book and I love it, and it's going to be fun. And that's what it's all about. The coloring book is an old classic. I think a lot of kids have already seen it and know what it is, but the idea behind this is to make it fun. So I've made it giant, and I've got disappearing crayons and 2 or 3 different wand problems. The whole thing's going to be fun. It's not really about coloring. But this is a giant book. This is not professionally made. It's not available. You just have to find it. So what I've done, I'm going to cut the 3 tabs. So I've marked the 3 tabs to know which ones are going to be blank, fully colored in, and scribbled. That's what I'm going to go with. To mark it, I start with the very back. You want that final display to be a fully colored page. So this has to start, the orange is and the center is the fully colored. You cut tabs, so this is going to have a tab here, there'll be a tab here, and there'll be a tab here. So when you run the tabs, only certain pages will show. That final display, I think, needs to be fully colored. They're not the same pictures, and that's not going to be a problem because it's a whole big book and you're only seeing part of the pages. And you'll see part of the pages. It's really not a problem that they're not the same. Only another magician is going to notice and go, oh, those pictures are not the same in the outline and the color. Nobody cares. It's not a problem. It really isn't. The kids are having fun. They're not paying attention to which picture is which. It's a bunch of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck stuff. Actually, what I did was I took 2 copies of this book. If you look, this is the let me see if I can find it. Here's the center, and those are not staples. That is thread, because I took 2 copies of the book, took the cover off. I couldn't reuse the staples, so I stitched it together. I ran tape here and tape here. Also, around the edge here, I used Scotch tape, put it on, and folded it over to protect the edge. You see the back page here, and I have to look for it. There's the back page there, because this center section is 1 copy of the book. This is the other copy of the book. I just dropped it straight in. I didn't go page for page or any of that. It doesn't matter. They're not going to notice. So it's 2 sets of the same book put together to give us more pages. Because originally it was only going to be half of this, and that doesn't make a good display. So I put 2 copies of the book together to make a huge coloring book. I'm going to go through these pages that are green are going to get scribbled. These are going to be colored. These are going to be left blank. You cut for the center section, you'll cut this piece off and this piece off. For this section to be tabbed, you will cut these 2 off. And then for this one to be tabbed, you cut these 2 off. So you'll have your tab, and you'll just flip through and it'll show what you want it to show. You have to go through 1 page at a time. That's the only part, is don't lose your place. Mark the first display, the very back page, color. Next, scribble. Next, blank. Colored, scribbled, blank, and go through the entire book marking them. That way, as you go through, you don't lose track of what page you're on. When I'm going, I go, oh, this one's yellow, skip it. This one's green, scribble it. This one's orange, color it nicely. So it's easier to keep up with. And then put them here on the ends. You already know that's the tab, cut the other 2. This is the tab, cut the other 2. So it's going to make it much easier to make the book. I've got the pages all colored. Again, the yellow is blank, the green is the scribbled, and then the orange is colored nicely.
or as nice as I can. Went through the whole book. I got about halfway through the book and I realized, wow, this is a lot of pages. But I'm getting ready to cut the tabs. The tabs I cut originally are far too large and I trimmed them down much, much smaller. So it's a little more like the angles that are cut on the professionally made and available books. But now I have a giant Mickey Mouse book.
The biggest problem with the crayons is the Crayola took away the flap. They got this little tuck box, and it used to have this whole front was a flap. Now the two options are to cut a hole in this so you can see the crayons through here. I've seen that done and it works. But when you take this and the crayons are up here, when you hand it to the kid, you let go and they fall so the kid can feel the crayons here. You'll see this blank. So what I'm going to do is this piece of the flap I'm going to tape, and I'm going to cut along here and cut my own flap. It'll look like the crayons, but you open it, it'll be a flap. You can tuck it back in. Then when the kid is holding it, he can feel them here, but you won't see them missing until I open the flap. So it's going to take a little bit of craft, but it shouldn't be a problem. I just can't, this doesn't present well. So you need the flaps. You can open it and show they're missing, and you don't want to just cut a hole in here because then you'll see they're missing before you're supposed to. The first thing I did with this case, because it did open here, and that does not display well, I cut this and made my own flap. I cut around this, so I've got something to tuck in to help kind of hold it. It's not real important, but it'll kind of help. So I had to cut around that and then patched it with some tape going on both sides so it's not sticky. You want to be able to open it and show the crayons. And that little opening up here, it just wasn't going to work.
Now you have to make half a block of crayons to make them disappear. So you measure the box for how much it can drop and how much needs to be visible. I already have them all marked. I'm just showing you what a ruler looks like. There's a mark on there and I have most of them cut. I almost forgot to show you this part. It's really easy, but you just cut all of them. Once they're all cut, you tape them together and glue them. It's really very simple, but then it's one solid block, so you can display it with the crayons up. As you release, you close the lid, you release the pressure on it, it drops to the bottom. When the kid feels the bottom, he can feel the crayons. You open the box and they're gone. So you want to make sure and turn the little label that says crayon to the front. I had them sticking up and forgot I'm working on the back. So I rolled them over, glued them, just tape it in place to glue it, and then I ended up leaving the tape on there because why not? Finished product looks good. I put little crayon marks up on the box lid. It tucks in nicely and then it drops down and you can feel it there. I softened it with a little piece of paper towel on the bottom so it doesn't make a clunk noise, but honestly, in a noisy show, no one's going to hear it. It's hard to get the block out, but you don't take it out. I was just showing you this is the block. It goes in and it works really well because you see it's visible, and then you turn it up and it drops. Simple, but it works really well, and because the kid can feel it in the bottom if you use a volunteer, it's there. The book displays well, it works well. The tabs look really bad, but I had my wife look at it. She said she couldn't see it from a distance at all. I did the show, nobody noticed. So yeah, the tabs are really funky looking, but these books are never inspectable. One thing when you're doing the scribbles, make them big, wide scribbles so the kids can see from a distance that it is scribbled, not colored nicely. Again, you want the back page to be the good color. I use the 2-inch packing tape on the inside of the front and back cover and on the center where I had to stitch it back together. and outside. The tape is going to help it because it's got to support its own weight. It's hanging a lot, so I wanted the tape to help strengthen it. And then I put tape around the edges, just a little Scotch tape, because as I'm thumbing through it all the time, I don't want to wear out the cover. So I now have a really big, cool looking Mickey Mouse book, and it's a lot of fun to do. For more detailed instructions and pictures, please visit the blog at FreeMagicFun.com. Keep practicing.